If you look online, you can find a guide for just about anything. And today, we're going to walk through a really fascinating one, a step-by-step protocol that claims it can help couples conceive twin boys. Now, let's be super clear. Our goal here isn't to say whether this works or not. We're simply breaking down the method just as it's laid out in a popular online source to understand the logic behind it. All right, let's dive in. So, we're going to follow the timeline laid out in the guide. We'll start with the big picture stuff, setting the right environment. Then we'll get into the nitty-gritty daily plan for both partners. From there, we'll cover the final super important hour and wrap up with the advice for the main event and what to do right after.
Okay, so let's get into Section 1, the basics. According to this guide, you can't just jump in. The very first step is all about setting the stage and creating the perfect environment. Right off the bat, we get this really specific advice about timing. The source insists that winter is the ideal season to try for a boy. So why winter? Well, the thinking they present is basically twofold. First, they say winter brings better, more nutritious food, and second, the cooler temperatures are supposedly better for male sperm, which they claim don't do as well in the heat. All right, so if winter is the season, what does the actual day look like? Let's move on to the woman's daily routine. The source lays out this incredibly precise schedule of what to eat and drink from the moment she wakes up. The day kicks off with a very particular breakfast: 1 egg, a bit of cheese, and an onion. Yes, an onion. The idea is that this will heat up and get the ovaries going. Later in the day, a cup of tea, cinnamon, ginger, or chamomile is on the menu, supposedly to help thin the egg wall. And then, for the final drink of the day, there's something you probably wouldn't expect: an oral rehydration solution.
So, why on earth an oral rehydration solution? I mean, this is the kind of stuff you give to a kid who's dehydrated. Well, in this protocol, it has a totally different purpose. It's all about changing the body's pH. The claim is that drinking this will make the woman's entire system more alkaline, less acidic, which is presented as an absolutely critical factor for giving male sperm an advantage.
Now, this plan isn't a one-way street. Let's shift gears and look at Section 3, the husband's role. The guide has a whole set of detailed instructions for the guy too, covering everything from what he eats to, other important timing details. And his diet is just as specific. We're talking seafood, good quality meats, and even a special dish called Trotter's soup. As for drinks, we've got boiled parsley, fresh ginger tea with honey, and even ginseng supplements. The whole point of all this, according to the source, is to boost the quality and, the speed of the sperm. Okay, now here's where things get really interesting, because the guide directly pushes back against a really common belief. You know how people say you should save up sperm to make it more potent? Well, this protocol says, nope, do the exact opposite. The argument here is that sperm has to be renewed constantly, like every day or every other day, because old sperm might just die off and not be effective. All right, this brings us to what the source basically treats as the main event before the main event. This is Section 4, the crucial pre-intercourse hour. It's a 60-minute window with a really strict, non-negotiable timeline for both partners. Here we go, the final countdown. 1 hour out. The woman is told to use a douche made of sodium bicarbonate, yep, that's baking soda and water, to create that alkaline environment we keep talking about. Then, at the 30-minute mark, the husband drinks a cup of coffee, which the source says is like a turbo boost for his sperm, while the woman has another cup of ginger tea. And then, right at the very last minute, there's one more critical step for the woman.
This is a direct quote from the source, and wow, they are not subtle about it. The instruction is to completely clean and dry the area of any natural secretions. They repeat dry 3 times to really hammer the point home. The thinking behind this is to make sure nothing interferes with that alkaline environment that's been so carefully created.
And that brings us to our final section, number 5. This covers the specific instructions for the act itself and for the moments immediately after. So the protocol lays out 3 key rules for this stage. First, it says the woman needs to stay calm and not reach orgasm. The reasoning given is that her own natural fluids could change the pH and mess up that alkaline balance. Second, the whole thing should be fast, like 20 minutes max, which all leads to the third and final goal. The man should finish before the woman's body has a chance to produce its own fluids. On top of all that, the source also recommends 2 very specific positions. One is called the prostration position, or sujud, and the other is just the standard missionary position. These are presented as the best options for this particular method. And for the moments right after, the instructions are just as precise. Immediately, she should press her legs together tightly and then lie down on her right side or on her back. And here is another piece of advice that kind of goes against what you might have heard. The source says not to elevate your legs for a long time. That's right, it specifically says to avoid doing that.
And that's the entire protocol, from A to Z. It's a pretty wild example of the kind of incredibly detailed, homemade guides you can find all over the internet. And it really leaves us with a big question to chew on. As these really specific non-medical regimens get shared more and more, how do they fit or not fit with modern science and actual medical advice on fertility? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.